so nice to finally meet you, Spider-Man.
You're Nick Fury.
Hi everyone, it's Charlie. We got a brand new Spider-Man Far From Home promo to break down with a couple Easter eggs and news about what's going on with their marketing as it applies to Avengers Endgame. There's a lot of really funny stuff going on. So if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. There's new giveaway stuff I'll explain at the end of the video. They released a bunch of new preview images just hyping up the different places that they'll go on their world tour, confirming another big place that we have not seen in any of the trailers yet, so I'll explain what's going on with that. We also found out when they're dropping the next trailer, and it has a lot to do with what's going on with Avengers Endgame because of really big spoilers in Spider-Man Far From Home. So I'll talk about that in a second. We'll talk about the Easter eggs first. The first image is just him on the London Eye. If you haven't been to London before, it's just one of the many big touristy landmarks that people go to. It was also featured in Fantastic Four 2. So I know everybody's wondering about what's going to happen with the Fantastic Four in the MCU now that Marvel officially owns those characters. Within the context of Spider-Man Far From Home, it's not meant to wink at Fantastic Four 2 or anything like that. It's just a common London landmark. Pretty much every big movie that goes to London to film, like the big Fast and Furious movies, they all feature the big London landmarks. So of course they're going to show up in everybody's big movie. One of the ways movies get big tax credits is as if they feature a lot of touristy landmarks. So that's why foreign countries will say, come film here, we'll give you big tax credit if you help tourism in our country. There was a lot of London footage in the last big trailer. That's why you see all those big monuments in that, because they turn those into big action scenes, just big wide sweeping shots, almost like they're doing a tourism ad for the city of London. You see Nick Fury in the Shard, which is the tallest building in the UK, looking down on London City, keeping his one eye on Spider-Man and everything that's going on in his field of view. You see Tower Bridge, which actually isn't too far away from that, in that big action scene where he jumps off in the new version of the suit to go fight that monster.
You got gifts, Parker, but you have a job to do.
The funny thing about this scene is there's actually a solid chance that Spider-Man could be talking to Nick Fury in his ear because the Shard is right over here. He would be able to see everything that's going on during this big battle if he were up in that building. The next one is actually interesting because it's Spider-Man at the Brandenburg Gate in Berlin, Germany, and as far as we know, we haven't seen any footage of them in Berlin in any of the trailers. Because when they have that funny scene of them in customs, that's actually Italian customs, so that's when they're headed to Venice, which is featured prominently during the trailer because it's where that big Mysterio battle takes place with the Hydro monster. So we have no idea what they're doing in Berlin, if it has anything to do with the events of Captain America Civil War, because that was the last time that Spider-Man was in Berlin. They did have that special office of the World Security Council where Iron Man was working out of with the government and Everett Ross. Like, there was a lot of stuff going on that was Avengers related in Berlin. So it could have something to do with that. They could just be drawing on resources because this is a very international movie with international problems. And I'll talk about this when I talk about the next trailer, but it implies that Nick Fury is taking a more prominent authority role. Because as of the end of Avengers Infinity War, it still seemed like S.H.I.E.L.D. had not reformed officially within the MCU, and he and Maria Hill were still kind of working on the DL on their own. The scale of the threat in Spider-Man Far From Home and just the way he presents himself to Spider-Man makes it seem like he's acting in a more official capacity, like he has a lot more resources like he used to when he was director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Post all your theories about what you think is happening in Berlin, Germany during the movie. So far, we haven't had any kind of evidence. There haven't been any rumors or anything, so it's just another big location with a big question mark over it. The third image is just him in the Venice canals in Italy where he fights the Hydro monster with Mysterio. That's where you see most of the footage during the last big Spider-Man Far From Home trailer, the place where their hotel is, where they're all watching it on the news, where Flash Thompson reveals that he's a total Spider-Man stan, then says, "What's up, Digwad?" to Peter Parker, not understanding that he is Spider-Man.
Sup, dickwad?
Moving into the next trailer, everybody asking when are they going to drop more footage. The funny thing about that is they said that they're not going to be releasing another big Spider-Man Far From Home trailer until we get closer to Avengers Endgame because, as you would assume, there are going to be a bunch of spoilers in it for the end of Avengers Endgame. There are already a couple key plot points that we've seen them tease at the beginning of the last trailer, especially with that check, regardless of when this actually happens during the movie, whether this is the beginning or it's happening closer to the end. There's just a lot of questions raised about why Happy's here, why Pepper Potts' name is on this check, why Iron Man isn't anywhere to be found. So I just broke these down top 8 style just to address these. 8, obviously what happens to Iron Man. Pepper's clearly alive because her name's on the check. Happy still seems like he's fine because he's flirting with Aunt May, just freaking Spider-Man out. There's also the scene of the two of them flying on Iron Man's automated jet, just like they did during Captain America Civil War and Spider-Man Far From Home. This could be happening when they're in London. He could be just flying him somewhere temporarily because, for the most part, he's traveling with his classmates through the film. They fly to Europe on a regular passenger jet just like everyone else. So at some point in the film, Happy will have to take him somewhere else that could have something to do with him getting those new versions of the suit. 7, it'll spoil what happens to New York City that makes Iron Man want to give his own money to help the homeless, because that's what's happening in the beginning of the trailer here. They're benefiting the homeless in and around the New York City area, but you remember outside of his Avengers activities, Iron Man is just a regular billionaire in the world. He probably gives a lot of money to charity normally.
Big man in a suit of armor. Take that off, what are you?
Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
So what about this time is so special that he wants to make a special check and have Spider-Man give it to the people? Obviously, he's being the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. They sort of pay that reference off at the end of the trailer where Flash Thompson says, what, he wears a dope suit, he protects the neighborhood. That's just a reference to friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Whatever it is that's happening in this moment here, it's because of something that happens at the end of Avengers Endgame. 6, what happens to Captain America, whether or not he sacrifices himself, and if that means that he dies or winds up in a limbo state a la Soul Gem, or just disappears into eternity and everybody's not really sure what happens to him. 5, the trailer will have to spoil how Nick Fury comes back at the end of Avengers Endgame. I know a lot of questions about what's going on with Nick Fury in a lot of these scenes. People are wondering if he's not really Nick Fury and is someone else pretending to be him. We just had Captain Marvel. I know there's lots of questions about Secret Invasion and Skrulls. I'll talk about that in a separate video. I do not think that Nick Fury is a Skrull in Spider-Man Far From Home, but because the Chameleon is supposed to be a character during the movie, people are just wondering if it's secretly the Chameleon pretending to be Nick Fury, just working with Mysterio. There's the very comic book subplot going on in Far From Home where Mysterio is trying to make himself look like a hero like he does in the comics, when really he's a core Spider-Man villain, so he's going to be a master manipulator during the film, manipulating Nick Fury and manipulating Spider-Man till Spider-Man figures out what's going on. 4, the trailer will have to reveal what happens to S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, Nick Fury has all these resources again. Does that mean that he's back in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Whether or not they bring S.H.I.E.L.D. back during Avengers Endgame, there are behind-the-scenes pictures of Iron Man in S.H.I.E.L.D. gear during Avengers Endgame, but I think that this is a little misleading. I'll talk about that when we get more Avengers Endgame footage. 3, they'll have to reveal how the Avengers and Spider-Man inspire Mysterio to become Mysterio based on the events of Avengers Endgame and the last couple of Avengers movies. So think about it this way, they fix everything, but there's still a final big battle that's very public. The Avengers save the day, everybody loves them, and it becomes one of the tipping points in Mysterio's life that says, I want to be just like this, I want people to love me. So forgetting about the 8 years later issue during Spider-Man Far From Home from the original Avengers battle, remember the way they used the original Battle of New York during that movie to inspire all the villains in present day and the way they used technology, just all the fallout from that original Avengers movie. So think about someone like Mysterio who was watching all those Avengers battles, following them all over the world, growing more and more delusional about how the world could love him the same way that they love the Avengers, and that starts off the plot of Spider-Man Far From Home with these different creatures that he creates. 2, Spider-Man Far From Home will have to spoil whether or not they open the bottle on multiple realities in Avengers Endgame, because the way that Mysterio is explaining these elemental creatures is that they're basically supernatural, and the world as we know it right now doesn't totally understand that. Even after the events of the Doctor Strange movie, most regular people have no idea what Doctor Strange does, what other realities and dangers like Dormammu that he's protecting them from. So if Mysterio comes out in a really public way, making everyone think that all these multiple realities exist with these elemental creatures, even though I think we all believe that this is fake, that means that people will suddenly realize on mass scale, oh my god, we're not the only thing living here. There are other realities. There's mystical stuff going on. In number 1, one of the other big things that Spider-Man Far From Home is going to spoil is what's going on in the background post-snap in Avengers Endgame. Things left hanging in the air, other potential Spider-Man villains that are showing up, just things that reference just how much the world has changed in Avengers Endgame and how the Avengers fix everything. So as you can understand, there's so many unanswered questions as of the beginning of Avengers Endgame, even the footage that we've seen, which kind of reveals quantum suits, so we have kind of an idea of what's going on. But really, if the movie's going to be longer than 2.5 hours, because people think that it's going to be up to 3 hours, there's so many things that can happen in that run of time that they just want to wait till after everybody sees it before they show you what's going on in Spider-Man Far From Home in this new post-Avengers Endgame Marvel Phase 4 world. Everyone post your theories in the comments. What do you think that Spider-Man Far From Home is going to spoil about Avengers Endgame? There is a new round of that IMAX ticket giveaway too. As long as you're a subscriber to my channel, all you have to do to enter is leave a Spider-Man related comment on the video. There's a whole bunch of really big comic book stuff coming up in the next couple of days, so I'll post all those videos as fast as possible. Click here to rewatch both of those different versions of the Spider-Man Far From Home trailer, and click here for my non-spoilery Shazam review. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.